Ready to get your learn on. Today we're diving deep into the world of Apache Warriors.
Okay.
But buckle up, because we're not just talking about brute strength and battle tactics.
Right.
Get ready to have some of your assumptions challenged.
Exactly. You see, the Apache Warrior ethos, that's their core set of beliefs about strength and what it really means to be a warrior.
Okay.
It's incredibly sophisticated.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring how their training, their diet, even their social structure all played a part in forging warriors who are not only incredibly tough, but also deeply connected to their community and the land.
Okay, so it's like way more holistic than just hit things hard and win battles, right?
Right.
I mean, I knew the Apache were renowned for their fighting skills,
Right.
but I'm getting the sense there's a whole other layer to uncover here.
Absolutely. One source described the Apache warrior ethos as a philosophy that permeated their entire lives. And you're right, this wasn't just about physical prowess. It was about mental fortitude, spiritual awareness, and a deep respect for the natural world. All of these elements were intertwined.
Wow, okay, I am here for it.
Hmm.
So where do we even begin? This warrior ethos shaped their entire lives.
Yeah.
I mean, did they have some kind of training manual passed down through generations?
Think of it more like a living tradition. But yes, they did have very specific training practices designed to shape young warriors.
All right.
And let me tell you, these guys made CrossFit look like a walk in the park.
Okay, I'm already intimidated. Give me the rundown. How did they train to be so fierce?
We're talking about rigorous physical tests that push them to their limits. Imagine running for days on end to build stamina. We're not talking about a casual 5K here. This was endurance training on an entirely different level. And that was just one small part of their regimen.
Days. Okay, suddenly my morning jog feels really pathetic. I need to step up my game.
But it wasn't all about brute strength. One of the things that really struck me was their focus on adaptability. Take their weapon mastery, for example.
Okay.
The Apache were incredibly skilled with traditional weapons like bows and arrows, but they also seamlessly transitioned to using firearms when those became available. It's about being resourceful, about making the most of whatever tools you have at your disposal.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it's not about being a one-trick pony. It's about being able to pivot, to master whatever comes your way. That takes incredible mental flexibility, don't you think?
Precisely. And that leads us to another fascinating aspect of their training, the emphasis on mental conditioning. They understood that a warrior's mind was just as important as their body.
So we're talking about more than just physical strength. What kind of mental training do they practice?
We're talking about meditation and visualization techniques, practices that might sound very familiar to anyone who's into mindfulness or modern sports psychology today. The Apache warriors would visualize themselves succeeding in battle, overcoming obstacles, and achieving victory.
Wow.
It's about training the mind to be calm, focused, and prepared for any situation.
Wow, it's incredible how these ancient practices are being rediscovered and even scientifically validated today. Like, we're just now catching up to what the Apache warriors knew centuries ago.
It really is remarkable. And speaking of ancient wisdom, let's talk about their diet. Forget protein shakes and energy bars. These warriors fueled their bodies with the natural, seasonal foods they found in their environment.
Okay, now I'm really interested. I'm all about that clean eating. What did their diet consist of?
Think lean meats like deer and rabbit, great sources of protein for those long runs. But it wasn't all about meat. They also had a heavy emphasis on wild plants. Berries, nuts, seeds, roots, a whole array of natural goodness packed with vitamins, minerals, and fiber.
So it's not just about what they ate, it's about their connection to the land.
Yes.
It's about understanding natural cycles, respecting the source of their sustenance, almost like a spiritual connection to their food.
Exactly. They drew strength from the same land they were dedicated to protecting. There's a powerful message there for us today about mindful eating, about understanding where our food comes from, and appreciating the interconnectedness of everything.
Totally. It really makes you think about how disconnected we've become from the sources of our food. We just grab a protein bar and call it a day. But this connection to the land, it wasn't just reflected in their diet, was it? We were talking earlier about how the Apache warrior ethos was about more than just individual strength.
Absolutely. One of the most fascinating aspects of their culture was the deep emphasis on community.
Okay, so it wasn't just about each warrior being a lone wolf, a rugged individual.
Right.
They relied on each other, right?
100%. Training wasn't a solitary pursuit for the Apache. It was a deeply communal experience. Elders would pass down their wisdom and knowledge of tactics. Mentors would guide young warriors, helping them to hone their skills and develop their character. And peers, they trained together, pushed each other to excel, and formed bonds that would last a lifetime.
See, that's what I love about this deep dive already.
Yeah.
We're seeing how these seemingly disparate aspects, the physical training, the diet, the community, they all connect to create this incredibly powerful and sophisticated warrior ethos. It's fascinating.
It's truly holistic, isn't it? Every aspect of their lives was intertwined with this warrior ethos. And, what's fascinating is that these ancient principles have surprising relevance to our lives today.
Okay, tell me more about that. How can we, living in the 21st century, apply these ancient warrior principles to our own lives?
Well, take their resilience, for example. The Apache Warriors were renowned for their ability to withstand hardship, to bounce back from setbacks, to never give up. That kind of mental toughness, that grit, it's a valuable trait in any era, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Resilience is like the ultimate life hack, but it's not something you can just like download, right? How did the Apache actually cultivate that unyielding spirit?
That's where their training methods get really interesting. It wasn't just about building muscle. It was about forging an indomitable will. They had the saying, toughest mind, toughest warrior, and they lived by it.
Okay, I'm getting chills. So how did they actually train their minds to be so tough?
They were masters of visualization, mentally rehearsing challenging scenarios before ever facing them in reality. Imagine an Apache warrior, eyes closed, picturing himself calmly aiming his bow despite being surrounded by enemies. That level of mental discipline,
Yeah.
being able to control your fear and focus under pressure, it's incredible.
It's like they're hacking their own nervous systems,
Yeah.
training themselves to stay calm and collected when the stakes are high.
Right.
That's next level stuff. And you know what? That's something I could really use in my own life. Like next time I'm freaking out about a presentation at work,
Yeah.
I'm going full Apache Warrior on that anxiety.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of the mind to overcome obstacles, both internal and external. And this wasn't just some abstract concept to them. The Apache embedded these mental techniques into their physical training as well.
Okay, so give me an example. How did a typical training session go down?
Let's take archery. It wasn't just about hitting a target. It was about precision and mental focus. Sources describe how they would practice drawing the bowstring using their back muscles, not just their arms, for greater stability. They understood the importance of form,
Right.
of using the body efficiently,
Yeah.
which minimized wasted energy and maximized their impact.
It's like they were optimizing every single movement, every muscle, every breath. Is incredibly strategic and disciplined. I'm starting to see why they were such formidable warriors.
And their strategic brilliance wasn't limited to individual skills. They were also masters of tactical movement and coordinated attacks. One source described their ability to move like shadows, using the terrain to their advantage, appearing and disappearing at will. It's no wonder their enemies were terrified.
Okay, now I'm picturing them in a dense forest, sunlight dappling through the leaves, and they're just gone.
Right.
Like whispers in the wind. It's both elegant and terrifying. But this mastery of strategy, it wasn't just instinct, right? They had to learn it somehow.
You're absolutely right. And this is where the communal aspect of their culture comes into play again. The elders, the experienced warriors, they weren't just fighters, they were teachers, passing down generations of hard-won knowledge.
It's like a master class in strategy and survival, handed down from one generation of warriors to the next. I'm starting to think we could all use a little bit of that ancient wisdom in our lives today.
Couldn't agree more. This deep dive into Apache warrior culture is about so much more than just ancient history. It's about uncovering timeless principles of strength, resilience, and community that have the power to transform our lives today.
I'm totally with you on that, but I have to ask, all this talk of training and warriors, it sounds intense. Was there ever a time for these warriors to just chill? I mean, did they have lives outside of training and combat?
That's a great question, and it brings us to another fascinating aspect of Apache culture: their deep connection to the natural world. Remember we were talking about their diet, how they lived in harmony with the land? Well, that connection went far beyond just sustenance.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
For the Apache, nature wasn't just a resource to be exploited. It was a sacred space, a source of spiritual guidance and renewal. They believed that spending time in nature, observing the animals, the plants, the cycles of the seasons, it sharpened their senses, calmed their minds, and brought them closer to the Great Spirit.
Wow, so it's like nature was their sanctuary, their way of recharging and finding balance.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes I swear, a good hike in the woods does more for my mental health than a week's worth of therapy.
Exactly. And this connection to nature, it wasn't just about personal well-being, it also played a crucial role in their training and their strategic thinking.
Okay, now we're getting back to the warrior stuff. How so?
The Apache were masters of camouflage and deception. They could blend seamlessly into their surroundings, becoming one with the shadows and the trees. This ability to observe, to adapt, to use the environment to their advantage, it was a direct result of their deep connection to nature.
It's like they could disappear into thin air. Their enemies wouldn't even know what hit them. It's fascinating how this connection to nature gave them a tactical advantage. It's like they were tapping into some kind of ancient wisdom, a secret language whispered by the wind and the trees.
Exactly. And, you know, this idea of finding strength and wisdom in nature, it's not just an ancient concept. It's something that's becoming increasingly relevant in our modern, tech-obsessed world.
Absolutely. It's like we're realizing that maybe we need to disconnect from our screens every once in a while and reconnect with the natural world. It's good for the soul. And hey, if it can turn us into strategic masterminds like the Apache Warriors, I'm all for it.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, a web of interconnectedness that sustains and nourishes us. And you know, this brings us to another crucial aspect of their culture, their unique approach to justice and conflict resolution.
Okay, this is interesting. I'm picturing fierce warriors, and now
Yeah.
we're talking about justice. I wouldn't have put those two things together. How did they handle conflicts within their communities?
The Apache had a restorative justice system, which is very different from the punitive systems we often see today. Their focus was on repairing harm, restoring balance within the community, and promoting healing rather than punishment.
So it's less about an eye for an eye and more about understanding the root causes of the conflict and finding a resolution that benefits everyone involved.
Exactly. For example, if someone stole something, the focus wouldn't be solely on punishing the thief. It would be on understanding why the theft occurred in the first place and finding ways to address those underlying issues.
That's fascinating. So it's about rehabilitation, not just retribution. I have to say, that's a refreshing perspective. Even today, it's a lot more nuanced than just locking someone up and throwing away the key.
Absolutely. And this restorative approach to justice, it wasn't just about dealing with conflicts. It was about strengthening the community as a whole. It was about fostering understanding, empathy, and a sense of shared responsibility.
It's like they understood that a community is only as strong as its weakest link. And by addressing conflicts in a way that promotes healing and understanding, they were actually making the entire community stronger.
Precisely. And you know, these ancient Apache practices have some surprisingly relevant applications in our modern world.
Okay, I'm ready for a little more mind-blowing ancient wisdom. How so?
Well, think about the growing interest in restorative justice practices in our own legal systems. There's a growing recognition that punitive approaches often fail to address the root causes of crime and can actually perpetuate cycles of violence and recidivism.
It's like we're starting to realize that maybe we have something to learn from these ancient cultures. Yeah. That maybe there's a more humane and effective way to approach justice.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to hold people accountable for their actions while also creating opportunities for growth, healing, and reintegration into the community.
I love that we're connecting these ancient practices to modern-day issues. It's like the Apache warrior ethos isn't just some dusty relic of the past. It's a living, breathing philosophy with valuable insights for the challenges we face today.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of their legacy, the enduring power of their symbols and storytelling traditions.
Okay, I'm all about a good story. Tell me everything. What kind of symbols and stories did the Apache use to transmit their warrior ethos?
One of the most powerful symbols in Apache culture is the eagle feather. It represents courage, strength, and a connection to the spiritual realm. Warriors would earn eagle feathers as symbols of their accomplishments and wear them with great honor.
I can see why the eagle feather would hold such significance. It's a symbol of freedom, power, and a connection to something greater than oneself.
Exactly. And the eagle wasn't the only animal that held symbolic meaning for the Apache. They also revered the bear for its strength and the wolf for its cunning and loyalty. These animal totems served as reminders of the qualities that warriors should strive to embody.
It's like they were drawing inspiration from the natural world, using these animal symbols to represent different aspects of the warrior spirit. I love that.
And these animal symbols weren't just static images. They were woven into their stories, their songs, their dances, bringing them to life and making them relatable to each new generation.
Okay, so tell me about their storytelling traditions. What kind of stories did they tell?
They had stories about legendary warriors, tales of bravery and cunning, stories that taught valuable lessons about strategy, resilience, and the importance of community.
It's like their version of history class, but way cooler.
Absolutely. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were a powerful tool for transmitting their cultural heritage, for instilling their values, for shaping the hearts and minds of their young warriors.
It's amazing how stories have this incredible power to connect us across generations, to transmit knowledge and values in a way that's both engaging and memorable.
Precisely. Think about the stories you loved as a child. They stay with you, shaping your worldview, influencing your choices, long after you've forgotten where you first heard them. So true. It's like these stories become part of our DNA, shaping who we are and how we see the world.
Exactly. And the Apache understood the power of stories. They used them masterfully to transmit their warrior ethos, to ensure its survival long after they were gone.
It's like they were planting seeds of wisdom, stories that would take root and flourish for generations to come. I love that imagery. It makes me think about the stories we're telling today, the legacy we're leaving behind.
And that's a powerful thought to leave you with as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. Think about the stories that have shaped your life, the values they've instilled, the lessons they've taught, and what stories will you share to inspire future generations?
Wow, that's a powerful question to sit with. I mean, we've been diving deep into this Apache Warrior ethos,
Right?
and it's clear that it's about so much more than just physical strength or combat skills.
Exactly. It's a philosophy, a way of life that emphasizes resilience, adaptability, community, and a deep respect for the natural world. These are values that are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Totally. But the world has changed a lot since the time of the Apache Warriors. How can we take these ancient principles and apply them to the challenges we face in our modern lives?
That's the beauty of these deep dives. They're not just about looking back at the past, they're about finding wisdom and inspiration for the present. So let's talk about how we can embody the Apache Warrior ethos in our everyday lives.
I'm ready. Give me those actionable insights.
Well, let's start with resilience. The Apache warriors faced incredible hardships, but they never gave up. They understood that setbacks are a part of life, but they didn't let those setbacks define them. Instead, they used those challenges as opportunities to learn to grow, to become even stronger.
So it's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Uh-huh.
But it's more than just a catchy phrase, right? It's about having a mindset that embraces challenges as opportunities for growth.
Precisely. And that's a skill we can all cultivate. Think about a time when you faced a major setback in your own life. Maybe you lost a job, went through a breakup, or experienced a personal loss. How did you respond? Did you let that setback defeat you? Or did you find a way to rise above it, to learn from it, to come out stronger on the other side?
It's like that moment when you realize you've survived something difficult and you know you can handle whatever life throws at you next.
Exactly. And that's the power of resilience. It's not about being invincible, it's about having the inner strength to bounce back, to keep moving forward no matter what obstacles you encounter.
Okay, so resilience is key. But it's not the only tool in the Apache Warriors toolkit, right?
Mm.
We were talking earlier about their adaptability, their ability to adjust to changing circumstances.
Absolutely. The Apache warriors were masters of their environment. They knew how to use the terrain to their advantage, how to adapt their tactics to fit the situation, and that kind of adaptability is more important than ever in today's rapidly changing world.
It's like we need to be constantly learning, evolving, and adjusting our approach to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Think about the job market, for example. The skills that were in high demand 5 years ago might be obsolete today. So we need to be lifelong learners, always willing to adapt to new technologies, new industries, new ways of thinking.
It's like our brains need to be as nimble and adaptable as the Apache Warriors were on the battlefield. So we've talked about resilience, adaptability. What other gems of wisdom can we glean from the Apache warrior ethos?
Well, we can't forget about the importance of community. The Apache warriors understood that they were stronger together than they were alone. They relied on each other for support, guidance, and inspiration.
It's like the saying, it takes a village.
Exactly. And that sense of community, that interconnectedness, is something that's often lacking in our modern individualistic society. We're so focused on our own goals, our own success, that we forget the importance of connection, of supporting each other, of working together towards common goals.
You know, it's interesting because even though we're talking about warriors and ancient traditions, this all feels incredibly relevant to the challenges we face today. Climate change, social injustice, political polarization. These are all complex issues that require collective action, a willingness to come together as a community and find solutions.
Absolutely. And the Apache warrior ethos reminds us that we don't have to face these challenges alone. We have each other, and in that connection, we find strength, resilience, and hope.
I love that. So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive into the world of Apache Warriors, what's the key takeaway? What's the one thing you hope our listeners will remember?
The Apache Warrior ethos is not just a relic of the past. It's a living, breathing philosophy that has the power to transform our lives today. By embracing resilience, adaptability, community, and a deep respect for ourselves and the world around us, we can all tap into our own inner warrior and create a more just equitable and sustainable future.
Beautifully said. It's been an incredible journey, and I have to say I'm feeling pretty inspired right now. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep uncovering the hidden wisdom that surrounds us.
It's been my pleasure.